Testing and check. Check. And check. I cannot hear myself. That's okay. Welcome to the Horrible Horror Cast. I'm Jeremy, and movies are terrible. This podcast is brought to you on behalf of BeTerribleProductions.com as well as Horror Movie Freaks. That's horror-movie-freaks.com. Head over there and check it out for all things horror, including the Movie Monsters series, podcast, movie reviews, con coverage, and so much more. So head over there, give them a like, check them out on Facebook, and tell them Large Marge sent ya. So I've got some pretty fun topics to discuss with you today, and hope that you stick around and that you enjoy it. And if you do me a favor, take just a second, smash that little thumbs up button down there. It really helps my self-esteem. And if you want to help get the word out, you can share the podcast to any of your various social medias, and hopefully people will come by and check it out, because I do really enjoy doing these live streams for you guys. However, it is a lot cooler for me when there's people watching them. I do see that there's one of you guys in here right now, and I really do appreciate your support. If you would like to say hello, please feel free to do so. I do not see the chat section of this podcast, unfortunately. So forgive me if I do not answer questions. Let me try to enable this right here. Okay. Am I streaming right now? Yeah, it looks like I am. Looks like the chat is disabled. Not what I was hoping for. Been having a little bit of technical difficulties with Wi-Fi. So what I'm going to do is buy a webcam so that I can hook up to my desktop, because there's no way to plug this MacBook in directly to Ethernet, which is lame. Let me check with you guys real quick and make sure that you can indeed hear me. So I got some fun topics to discuss today, as I'd mentioned. We're going to talk a little bit too about the fact that the Losers Club casting has been rounded out. You can see all the topics over here on the sidebar. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about John Carpenter confirming that he is in the process of scoring the 2018 Halloween pre-boot. No, not pre-boot. What is it? A soft reboot slash sequel? A blequel? I don't know. We need to come up with a term for what that is. We're going to talk a little bit about Phantasm, headed back to the movie theaters. This is Don Coscarelli's cult classic and genre favorite with The Tall Man. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Clive Barker's NIGHTBREED series. What? Love that movie. So I'm excited about that. And then we're going to close things off with Child's Play TV series. So there are a couple of popular franchises being brought to the television, some being brought back to the big screen. And yeah, actually every single thing that I have in here refers to what's either a sequel or a reboot. But that's okay, because these are a lot of movies that I'm excited about. Also, if you guys didn't know, I do a live stream here on YouTube on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. with Caleb Says Stuff. And we've been having a good time discussing some movie news topics. Last week, we talked a little bit about Asian horror and the fact that Blumhouse is setting up shop over in China and how that may actually open up the horror market quite a bit. So we talked a little bit about that. Also, if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please take an opportunity to do so. I cannot continue to grow without your support, so I really do appreciate it. Yeah, all right, we're gonna go ahead and dive in. I wanted to give you guys a second to get settled in, maybe potentially share. Throwing that out there, that'd be cool. So, all right, we'll go ahead and bring up this It discussion. As I mentioned, they just now completed casting for the new It film, and I cannot tell you guys how excited I am to hear about how perfectly they cast this. First, we have Bill Denbrough, and he is going to be played by James McAvoy. In the original, he was played by Jaden Lieberher, and there is definitely a physical resemblance there. I could definitely see how a kid like that would age into being James McAvoy. This is the leader, the de facto leader of the Losers Club, and I think that putting an actor with gravitas, somebody that's proven himself to be quite capable in all sorts of different genres, but more recently with Split in particular, this guy has shown he's got the goods. So I'm excited to see him take over as almost the lead of this film. Ben Hanscom, the overweight kid with the New Kids on the Block fascination from the first film played by Jeremy Ray Taylor, is going to be taken over by Jay Ryan. He's handsome. I don't know who he is. I know that in the story, Ben goes off, becomes successful in Hollywood, and gets a rockin' bod and comes back as a totally different person than what we just left him as. So despite the fact that I don't know who Jay Ryan is, I guess he looks the part. I don't know. I guess the verdict is out on him. Let's see here. Then coming up into probably my favorite casting, and that is Bev Marsh, who was originally played by Sophia Lillis, which I thought was probably the breakout performance in that movie. I thought she was excellent as a young Bev, and Jessica Chastain is going to be taken over as the adult Bev. Jessica Chastain is one of my favorite people working in Hollywood today. She is fantastic in movies like Zero Dark 30, and more recently in Molly's Game. She just constantly reminds me what a great actor she is, and she's actually previously worked with Andy Muschietti on the horror film Mama, which was based on a short film, so the two of them have a good working relationship, and I am really excited to see her step into this iconic role. Then we come to Richie Trashmouth Tozier, probably my favorite character in the first It film. Just very funny, had a lot of the great lines. He was portrayed by Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things in the film, and as an adult, he's going to be portrayed by Stefan himself, Bill Hader. Can't do impressions, my big thing. But man, talk about spitting image just all the way down this casting list, as I showed you guys the picture a moment ago. These are spitting images. So as we get down a little bit further, Eddie Kaspbrak, and this to me is the most striking casting as far as visually. Look at the similarities in these two characters. See if I can resize this without messing everything up. You can see him down there, second up from the bottom on the right hand side. And I am telling you, that looks exactly like what that guy would age into. So despite the fact that I'm not super familiar with his work, it's another case of just like spot on visual casting. I wish I had a little bit to refer to as far as what these guys have been in. Mike Hanlon, played by Chosen Jacobs in the first film, who was unfortunately a little short shrift because he was supposed to be the historian of Derry. However, that honor went to Ben in this reboot. So hopefully they'll beef up his role a little bit. He's going to be played by Isaiah Mustafa, another character actor that I am not fully familiar with. His close proximity to the evil for the last 27 years will have taken its toll in the form of a junkie lifestyle. So it fucked him up the first time around, which I can imagine. He could probably mess me up too, man. And then Stanley Uris, which if you're familiar with the story, not the most significant casting. Played by Wyatt Olaf the first time around, and he's going to be portrayed by Andy Bean. Again, no idea who that is. Okay, so of the Losers Club, we can see that the casting is heavily weighted towards our three, kind of mostly our leads. We've got James McAvoy as Bill. I don't know who's playing Ben. I mean, we know his name, but I don't know exactly who that is. We've got Jessica Chastain playing Bev, and we've got Bill Hader playing Richie. And man, I'm so excited. I was very concerned that they weren't going to be able to recapture the magic of the first film because of how great the chemistry it was and what inspired casting it was the first time around. So luckily it looks like it's shaping up nicely. I was a big fan of the original It, even though I thought the dramatic elements of it worked way better than the horror elements of it. I did not find it scary. I did not like the way that Pennywise started off in the form of the scary thing and then turned back into the clown, as opposed to using the clown to discern the children or make them more trusting of them. I don't know. There were some strange decisions made in the movie, but with that said, like the whole coming of age kids thing worked really, really well for me. So yeah. Speaking of kid stuff, and this didn't work at all. It has nothing to do with horror, but I saw Pacific Rim 2 last night. Fuck, whatever your expectations are, lower them even past that, and then skip the movie anyways. That's my advice to you. Well, that's kind of all I have to say about the casting for It and my anticipation for it. But as always, that's just my 2 cents, and I would love to hear from you because, as I've said before, guys, most of the reason why I do this is because I love to talk movies with you. Yeah, that's right, you. The one who's listening to me right now, you're the one who I like talking movies with. So, anytime, guys, feel free to hit me up on social media. Hopefully here shortly, once we get some traction in this motherfucker, I'm going to start taking live Skype calls, turn it into more of a radio show and more of a dialogue, because as much as I love talking movies with you, I do also like talking movies with people. So I'm trying to get the engagement factor up just a little bit. And I hope you're appreciating these graphics packages that I've been working on. Let me know down in the comments section if you're feeling them. And we're going to go ahead and move on. Topic number 2. It looks like John Carpenter recently tweeted out an image of his cat, Sandy King Carpenter, the kitty cat, and John Carpenter are in the process of scoring the new Halloween movie. Man, I had a hard time spitting out that sentence. Anyways, I am a huge fan of John Carpenter as a director, but I may be more of a fan of him as a musician, and I actually listened to tons of his scores, including Escape from LA and Halloween, of course. He's a great musician in his own right, and I hope that they do some unique and distinct things in this version of the film, because it would be a shame to have such a master and such a unique voice come back and just kind of, you know, go through the motions and do the same thing again. I've heard some of the stuff from the trailers, and I quite enjoy it as I do the trailers. I think that this shit looks like it's shaping up to be really cool. It is a direct sequel to the first film. Excuse me. And it kind of disregards everything that happened after that film, including the fact that there is a familial connection between Michael and Laurie. That's been done away with. We've got Danny McBride and David Gordon Green, I think is right. They're going to be writing, directing this. They got Carpenter's blessing, which Rob Zombies did not, if you remember that. And I don't know that we need another Halloween movie, but these are the people for the job if we indeed did. I think that the scene of the guy presenting the mask to Michael in the insane asylum is inspired. It's pretty creepy on its own terms. So yeah, I hope that it's good. We're going to be getting it here in not long, about 4 months, maybe a little bit more or less. My math. July, August, September, October. Yeah, 4 months. I'll be damned. So yeah, out of all the Halloween movies that there have been approximately one good one. So statistics are not on the side of this being a good film. It's not favorable conditions. I mean, he was once such an enigmatic character, and now he's just been overexposed in a lot of ways, and a lot of the other slasher franchises kind of jumped out ahead of Halloween afterwards. So, you know, we will just have to wait and see the verdicts out, but I would love to hear if you are excited for this upcoming film or not. Leave that shit down in the chat section, or if you're watching this afterwards, leave it in the comment section. I will come back and read it. I mean, it won't take too long for me to go through the comment section, so I always would love to hear from you. Not a whole lot to dive into on that topic. I will say one of the biggest headlines out of that entire story is that John Carpenter is so savvy on Twitter. I mean, what is the dude, 900 fucking years old? Alright, this is one that I am pretty excited about, you guys, and as a longtime fan of genre, Don Coscarelli has been someone who I've had a lot of respect for and a lot of admiration for, because he directed the first Phantasm movie when he was like in his early 20s, and yeah, it's a little B movie, and everyone that followed it got a little bit worse and a little bit worse, but he had this great sense of imagination, and I love the cemetery settings of this first one. And I'm just real excited to see how this all ends up playing out. It looks like AGFA, which is, let's see, American Genre Film Archive, the largest nonprofit genre film archive in the world, has just announced a theatrical partnership with the genre icon Don Coscarelli, which will bring several of his films, including a few of the Phantasm movies, back into theaters. I don't have a whole lot of details here in front of me, other than a couple of the Phantasm movies and Bubba Hotep will be coming to theaters, hopefully near you. I would love to see these movies on the big screen. That's something I never got to experience, and to just see it with an enthusiastic midnight movie crowd would be a lot of fun. You know, a lot of times when we do get these theatrical re-releases, it will be of gigantic tentpole movies, or then on the flip side of that, we'll get very limited simulcast showings of the movie. Like I went and saw Mystery Science Theater 3000, and it was being broadcast through several different theaters all at the same time. And that's a pretty cool experience, you know, to be able to, but it's not like you can go see it at 5, 7, 9, that it's just in the multiplex and it's going to be playing there. It's going to be special screenings, but really looking forward to it. That's something that could be exciting and just fun. We don't, you know, horror movies aren't made like they used to be lately. There's been a lot more pedigree involved in making them, and that kind of scrappy B-movie spirit has kind of been replaced by something a little more high-minded, a little more psychological, a little more sophisticated. But every once in a while, it's good to go back and just enjoy the good stuff. Straight up tits and blood and violence and things that you just can't get away with in movies. And speaking of which, I started watching Entourage earlier. I never really got into it because I always thought it was super bro-y, but my buddy kind of talked me into it. He's like, you like movies? You like Hollywood, you should check this out. And I started watching it, and I fucking think it's fantastic. Don't judge me, people. Don't judge me. But yeah, I watched a couple episodes of it and was just thinking, like, fuck, dude. Society's views have changed so much since 2008, 2012, that in today's climate, that show would never be able to pass. But that doesn't have much to do with horror movies. I'm just trying to pad this thing out, because I've only been discussing these topics for about 20 minutes. Is that right? Damn, normally I can do a deep dive. But, okay, so Phantasm. This is one of those series that has a iconic killer in it, in the Tall Man. I think, like, in a lot of ways, Slender Man owes a big debt of gratitude to Tall Man, and his little chrome balls have become so iconic. You know, they're like drills and turn into crazy weapons. They chase you down the hallways and stuff. And there's a lot of like real dreamlike sequences throughout all of the Phantasm movies. Definitely heavy elements of psychedelic weird stuff and talking about scores and John Carpenter, I really think that the score for the original Phantasm is iconic. If you're not familiar with it now, I highly recommend checking it out because it's one of my favorite pieces of music from a horror movie. For real, it's really, really good. Yeah, have you seen Phantasm before? Is this something that you're excited about or looking forward to? Hot summer days in Florida. I tell you what, boy, woo, it's fucking hot. Hot. All right. On to topic number 4. NIGHTBREED television series. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Cabal is a novella that was written by genre master Clive Barker. There was a film that was released back in the early 1990s, maybe 1990. And it is about a character named Boone who stumbles across a civilization of half monster, half humans living in a cemetery known as Meridian. And their lives are thrown into conflict with the human race when a deranged psychologist bent on murder and framing Boone for some reason reveals that these creatures are living among us. And I will never forget seeing the VHS box to this movie as a young kid, and just looks really cool. There's all these monsters on it, you know, old school monsters, monster makeup, prosthetics, really cool designs, and no two monsters looked alike. They all had these distinct looks and personalities, and I was like, wow, I gotta get that. And it had the little unrated edition stamp on it, so of course it's even more desirable, and I'm like, I gotta check that out. And I watched it as a kid, and I loved what I saw. It gets all the way to the scene when Boone ends up in the hospital, and he's visited by that crazy guy with the little blades on his thumbs. And dude starts going into his face with those claws and pulling his fucking skin off. If you've seen the movie, you know the scene I'm talking about. My mom comes walking in out of the other room. I'm like probably 8 years old, and she's just like, fuck this. Took it out, took it back to the video store, and from then I was like, man, NIGHTBREED is awesome. NIGHTBREED is hardcore, dude. I gotta watch NIGHTBREED. So when I finally got around to watching the whole thing, absolutely loved it. I wore that VHS out, and then I got it on DVD back when those were big. And again, just loved it. Feels like Halloween, not like the movie or the franchise, but it actually reminds me of the holiday Halloween, and you know, this very gothic vibe to it. And I didn't realize it at the time, but the villain of the movie is played by David Cronenberg, who Cronenberg is to film what Barker is to writing in a lot of ways. So it is a love letter to horror. It is a love letter to monster movies and to freaks, which I really always responded to. There's kind of the same allegory playing out in this as there is something like X-Men, as the monster human hybrids really do represent the oppressed, whether it's homosexuals or minorities or whatever, the other, basically, and how everybody should be able to coexist, but a lot of times society shuns and looks down on these kind of characters. It's a really good movie, and apparently the TV show is pretty much going to kick off after the movie, so it's kind of a sequel. It's going to be an 8-part series with 8 one-hour episodes. No, sorry, that's the next topic we're going to discuss. There's very little details out about NIGHTBREED so far, other than this is when they have fought off the police station from the end, and now they're trying to figure out their place in this world and how they're going to live among people. So I think that it's going to open up the world a little bit. We're going to see the way that these creatures interact in larger society. I imagine with shows like Face Off, and actually there's this guy named Eric Fox who did an interview with me a couple months back. He's a great effects artist whose work is on Face Off, and he did the work for the Gremlins documentary. I mean, this guy is incredibly talented, and I just really think you guys should check him out and see what's going on there. Also, Ryan Patrick is the director of that Gremlins movie, and did an interview with him too. Man, the shit was so cool. That's one thing. I don't get a lot of views always on my YouTube channel. I don't get a lot of listens on the audio versions of the podcast, and sometimes it kills me, you know? I watch the analytics pretty closely, and sometimes I'm just like, man, what do I even do this for? I've been doing it for years, you know, years. And granted, my content wasn't always great, but you know, sometimes I get low and I'm like, why do I do this? But then I have to remember and put it in perspective. Like, I've been able to host the Pensacola Film Festival for the last 3 years. I've been able to interview all these talented filmmakers and writers, and you know, it's afforded me opportunities that I never had before. So even if I don't get tons of views always, it's experience, it's life experience, and things that I probably wouldn't be doing otherwise. So I am eternally grateful for that. And again, even if it doesn't translate into me being a huge celebrity, it was never really about that. My whole goal, and I know this might be a little bit inside baseball, but is to grow the brand just enough where I can sell merchandise and just kind of get by. I don't care about being rich or anything, but to just be able to sell some t-shirts and you know, different things like that, drawings or prints that I do, different things that maybe I could sustain myself that way. So yeah, it was never about being the next Logan Paul or Phil DeFranco or something like that. It was always just more about just get as close to that apex as you can, still stay humble, still stay normal, but to be able to sell merchandise, you know? So anyways, that's kind of where my headspace has been at this whole time. But that has nothing to do with NIGHTBREED. Nothing to do with NIGHTBREED. It really depends on what network this ends up falling on is going to dictate my level of enthusiasm. Even shows like, or even networks like SYFY Channel, which notoriously only put out crap, has lately started producing some pretty good television shows, including Krypton. So, you know, there are a couple networks that I would be lukewarm on, and SYFY is one of them. If they said they were putting it on HBO or Stars, I would be through the roof excited about it. But it's really going to depend on the production value, who they get attached to it as the showrunners, and all of those different things. But it's one of my favorite movies. Clive Barker is one of my favorite storytellers, and Candyman is just... It's those movies from the early 90s and even Hellraiser before that just really helped solidify my love for this genre. Man, Candyman in particular. So I am on board. I always look forward to what Clive Barker's working on. So hopefully this doesn't let us down and it ends up fulfilling its potential. Just like you. I hope for the best for you too. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Child's Play, the TV series. Do not adjust your set. Can you even adjust your set anymore? That's some old school shit right there, boy. So anyways, Child's Play. Yep, that is right. We are actually getting a Child's Play television series brought to us by the man himself. This is the guy that's been attached ever since the beginning. He's the creator, he's the director, he's the writer. His name's Don Mancini, and he is teasing Child's Play, the TV series, coming soon. He did say that this is going to be deliberately set up at the end of the last movie, and the tone is going to be dark and disturbing. He says, we plan to use Child's Play in the title. We want to definitely signal that we are going dark. Darker than ever before. It's going to be very creepy. And he confirmed that voice Brad Dourif will once again be returning as the voice of Chucky, which you can't fuck with the Chuck. And I'm glad that they've been able to keep Dourif attached to this franchise as long as they have. It's obviously a labor of love for Mancini because he's been doing this for the better part of 3 or 4 decades now, you know. This is his baby, and the fact that he's still so enthusiastic and is basically willing to talk to anybody that will listen to him about it it's heartening, it's exciting, and it's real cool to see filmmakers like this, you know, make their mark and have such a diehard following. I think the last movie was called Cult of Chucky, and is there ever a Cult of Chucky? People are incredibly enthusiastic about this little puppet, this little children's toy, and I am a fan of the franchise. I've seen all of them. I like Curse of Chucky pretty good. I like the first one. I like Curse pretty good. Cult was fun, but it was weird. But they've started to really kind of go back to basics and take Chucky out of the realm of Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky and kind of went back. Cult got wonky again, and I'm curious to see the direction that the series will take. I do know that it was set up in Cult that there were multiple Chucky dolls and that Chucky could go into several of them. So, you know, they could do this so many different ways. We could have a different Chucky doll at different houses and different seasons. We can have, you know what I mean? Like, there's really interesting opportunities to be creative in the storytelling here. And this is the one I misidentified NIGHTBREED as the one. But Child's Play, the TV series, is going to be an 8 one-hour episode series, and they've got a very clear idea of what they're doing with it, and I think that's exciting. If I had to imagine, they'll probably get the whole thing done with production first and then air it, and I don't know exactly what network it's coming on. Oh, it's going to be coming on all the networks. Blah. Gonna keep in the Chucky canon. It doesn't say the network, I don't think. And down in the comment section, I got a kick out of this. 32 minutes ago. Been jamming. If it's premium, it'll last 2, maybe 3 seasons at most. If it's basic, it'll only last 1 year. The way, I suppose I'll give the pilot a shot. Can Chucky actually look scary this time? The new doll models are terrible. I disagree, Zeke. But I do like your avatar. It is Tall Man. It ties into what we were talking about. Let's see. Fingers crossed it deals with voodoo correctly and explores it more instead of just the same old, same old. Let's have Dimboala or whatever that god's name is, and heavy stuff, concentration on real voodoo. Whatever. Yeah, not everybody's excited about it. It's like there are a good mix of both. Some people are very excited about it, actually. There's some real long posts in here, which... Cult of Chucky was a clusterfuck. He found a new spell on the internet. Cringe. Now he can jump from body to body on a whim, so being the doll is pointless now. That alone ruined the future of the series if they continue with that retarded storyline. Tiffany needs to be back in doll form or just killed off completely. Tilly's acting in Curse and Cult is terribly cheesy and half-assed. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? When has Jennifer Tilly ever done anything that wasn't super cheesy and half-assed? That's her whole shtick, man. Like, come on, you were just younger when you saw the other ones. And then he says, they need to rewind and pick up where Bride left off, minus Glenn. It works better as a dark comedy because Chucky was never scary. Maybe to a child. I've been a fan since the beginning. I wasn't even scared of him then. I just thought it was a great supernatural occult story. To say the low-budget, lazy B-movie level Cult of Chucky is better than Bride is moronic as it is hilarious. Again, I disagree with you. I think that Cult was much better than Bride. Seed was better than Cult even. No, it was not. This TV series is doomed to fail. All the money Don is wasting on this dead-in-the-water project he could be spending on hiring more writers, etc., and creating a true to form Chucky movie that can hold up with the first 4 films. They rebooted Puppet Master after the Axis trilogy, which actually wasn't that bad, but still kind of bad. Still better than Curse of the Puppet Master. They fucked the Child's Play storyline so much with Curse Cult, the only way to save it is a reboot. Or rewind back to before it happened and pretend it never did. Total trash. Wind to the end of Bride of Chucky, but Tiffany never got pregnant, and go from there. See, there you go. There you go, Don Mancini. If you were wondering, this asshole, Jay, can take over the franchise for you. And I like that he says you're wasting money there. And clearly, this has been incredibly profitable. Budget that it takes to make these movies versus how much they make in merchandise alone. Like, come on, man. But yes, they've kept the timeline consistent all the way through for years and years and years. Even though it got ridiculous, it's maintained being true to what it was. It never really had to do a reboot, even though Curse was kind of a soft reboot. Much more gothic, dark, simple stories. It's sort of like Annabelle, but in a good way. In a good way. Alright guys, well, this ended up being a fairly short show, which is okay. I really do appreciate you stopping by to check out this edition of the horrible horror cast. hopefully this is something I will start to do regularly, but I would love to hear from you. Is it worth it? Is Saturday night the dumbest fucking night that I could do a live stream because everybody's off doing stuff? Is there a night that would be better? Let me know, because I plan on doing my regular weekly podcast with Caleb of Caleb Says Stuff, the Horrible Horror Movie Cast, and I might even be bringing back the weekly Pop Movie Podcast. Still trying to work out some bugs with the streaming situation. It's getting much better. Still some things I would like to work out, and yeah, you guys just stay tuned. I'm real excited about the way things have been going the last couple of weeks. I plan on ball rolling now that I don't have too much on the plate. I would also like to ask you guys what you think about the live stream versus, you know, me doing pre-recorded, pre-produced videos and uploading them. I should probably continue to do both, but I've been enjoying just dedicating my energy to the live stream, not just because I'm lazy, but because it's just fun. But again, kind of inside baseball, what you see here in front of you on this video, it was all done in pre-production. So once I sign off, this video is live, you know. I don't have to do any editing after the fact. I don't have to do any uploading. It doesn't take up tons of resources and bog down my computer. So there's a lot of reasons why I do enjoy this live format. Maybe I could even do movie reviews this way. But I would love to hear your thoughts. So let's have a discussion, please, and thank you. As I said before, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Let's make sure I point at the right side this time. Click that little, I can't go around it, but that little thumbs up button, I think. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the terrible content, then all you got to do is subscribe. Click the bell to enable notifications. And yeah, visit Patreon. Movies Are Terrible on Patreon if you want to support this thing. I've been filming a little bit of like vlog content. I want to do a little more behind the scenes and things like that to incentivize those of you guys who are supporting the Patreon page. So if you have any ideas for perks, anything at all, let's open a dialogue up and actually talk, because social media is so much better when you're being social. That's right. I'm Jeremy, and until the next time we meet, be terrible. Bye.